Okay, so now that you've seen some stock footage of Berkeley and you're doubtless grounded in the location of where my story begins, I'm gonna hike it up a notch and we're gonna start talking about women and sex and vaginas. So there's this class at UC Berkeley called Female Sexuality, or FemSex for short. This class changed my life. It changed my life. I know a lot of people throw that phrase around, but I really, really mean it. Before FemSex, I was just some lowly, ambivalent political science nerd who had a history of masturbating and feeling really bad afterwards. The class promotes some ideas, that women are sisters, and that we need to stop the petty bullshit and start questioning the dominant paradigm. We don't use the word vagina because it's the Latin word for sheath. Yes, as in a sword. We use the word, are you ready? Cunt. In this semester-long course, we learn about
anatomy and physiology, the clit, definitely female orgasm, childbirth, the sex industry, women's empowerment, sexual assault and rape, midwives,
erotica, anatomy, desire, female sexuality, I think, in general, and more deeply than anything else touches in the mainstream. Sex.
and lots of other stuff. What I learned while taking and then teaching FemSex was that I wasn't the only one whose life was impacted by this class. In fact, since its inception in the early 1990s, FemSex alumni have taken FemSex to Harvard, Brown, Yale, and Cornell. And that's why I made this film, to try and answer the question, what makes FemSex special? How can one semester-long course change the way that women think about their bodies, their relationships, their sexualities, and their lives?
So FemSex is short for Female Sexuality Education, and it is a democratic education at Cal. That's kind of like the formal name for it, which basically means it's a class that's taught by other peers or facilitated by other peers. Female Sexuality is actually sponsored by the Women's Studies Department, and it's about a class of 12 to 15, more or less, students who sit and meet twice a week for about 3 hours and talk about a variety of topics.
So female sexuality is a space where women can open up, talk about what's generally seen as taboo, ask questions that they wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable asking to their doctor maybe, or even their best friend. It's a space where they can really explore who they are sexually, and even more than just sexually, who they are at the core. And also a space where sharing that information sort of creates a community and makes people learn about themselves, but also learn about other people.
I learned about it through a couple friends, and I think it was a fairly popular decal at Berkeley, and it was kind of this thing, you have to take it. You have to take FemSex. There was like almost a mythology about, you know, all that it was, and so it was pretty, it was I don't know, built up pretty big.
It's like, I'm a freshman in college, and I'm interested in all this lesbian stuff, and sex. I kind of like sex, so I don't know. I really don't remember the thought process other than I thought this would be really cool, so I should try it. This is where all the cool people seem like they are.
I found out about FemSex through, it was kind of like the hot buzz of the school. The decal classes are really popular because of just the variety of topics that are addressed, and everyone I had spoken to had talked about female sexuality being just the greatest thing ever, and that I had to take it. And I really had no idea what I was in store for. I was like, okay, but I had no idea that it would be so valuable in terms of the things that I would take away from it.
I had transferred to UC Berkeley from UC Davis, and it was my first day wandering around the UC Berkeley campus as an admitted student, as a junior. And I remember it was a tree or a fence, there was a bright pink piece of paper, and it said the words orgasm, sex work, pleasure, you know, biology, all kinds of these words, and I was instantly attracted to it. And they said, do you want to learn about these things? That's what the paper said. And I was like, yes, I want to learn about these things.
My other classes that I took in sex ed, which I think were health, didn't talk about desire, didn't talk about alternative sexualities and didn't give voice to the multiple experiences that people could have based on, you know, their culture, their orientation, their gender, just the multiple ways people could feel and share, and, you know, where they're coming from, and I think that was special.
Okay, and was there any, like, one thing or couple of things that you took from FemSex that was really important to you?
Actually, and I know that this is not most people feel empowered and sexual and like they can come out of theirs, but I actually realized that as a disabled woman, we're desexualized by society pretty thoroughly. And I always thought that like this would be a big coming out for me, and what I actually got out of it was I'm not that like overtly sexual of a person, and that's completely okay too. And the thing I loved about FemSex is I never felt pressured to be a certain way. It really was defining yourself or not defining yourself and just feeling how you feel.
So one of the things I learned from FemSex is that there's something called acrimony, which is basically competition, often between women or for women, and having to do often with competing for a guy's attention, competing for who has a better body, things like that. And there was a conscious effort for people to become aware of acrimony in their lives and in our society in general, even to the point where I think there was an assignment where we had to, in public somewhere, not even in public, but as part of it was public, telling someone that they were beautiful, and usually women. I think it was tell a woman you're beautiful. So that doesn't mean call up your mom and say, Mom, you're beautiful. You can do that, but it means like walking down the street, stop someone and say, I just want to tell you, I think you're beautiful. And you couldn't say like, oh, you have nice shoes. Like that didn't count. And I think that it's a very uncomfortable thing to do. It's not like something that is traditionally acceptable. It's really important, and it really opened up your mind to how much judgment was going on.
Everyone had different levels of knowledge about certain things or certain experiences that they brought, and I think it was a good way that we could all educate each other, you know. So it would kind of bring to light just ways to think about sexuality or experiences that people had that I hadn't considered, and then I could share my own, and so that was a powerful experience.
We had to do a body image collage. And I took the class as a student, and then a few years later I taught it as a facilitator. But so this happened to me when I was a student. And, you know, I was like, okay, I can do that. And I was putting together a collage, like, you know, kind of very enjoying the process. And we had to present it in class. And so I was thinking, okay, not a big deal. I'm just going to talk about whatever it is that I pasted on this poster board. And the minute I got up there, probably like into like second 20 of my little spiel, I started bawling, like crying hysterically. I don't even, to this day, I don't even know where that came from, you know? Like, I was not prepared for that, but I think that there was a lot more there than I thought. And had I not been given that space to actually talk about the way that I saw my body at that point in time, or the way that I felt about my body at that point in time, I don't know that I would be the same person. The group was incredibly supportive of me just taking that space to do that, and I feel like in a lot of ways it was a lot of social support. But yeah, I still think about that to this day, and I'm kind of like, whoa, that was out of nowhere. And what more do I have to yet talk about that I don't really know, you know, that I haven't yet begun to heal from, or been given the opportunity or the space to heal from.
How many girls in my class had been sexually abused or assaulted? I figured like 2, like half. of the class. I mean, it was just like it upsets me, like so many people. And that really bothered me a lot because we don't talk about it.
I remember that there was a guest speaker. Her name was Carol Queen, and she was a sexologist. I didn't know she was a sexologist before I went to the guest speaker session. I just went because I thought, okay, more talk about sex. I love it. Let's do it. And I went the moment that she began speaking and she explained what a sexologist was. I think it was that exact moment that I knew that that was what I was supposed to do with my life.
Femsex seemed to me to be based on a really self-empowerment and community thing. So it was, I mean, there was lots of good information about, you know, sex and all the bits and pieces that are involved, but it was more about, you know, feeling good about sex, feeling good about yourself, feeling good about other people and good relationships and things like that.
Femsex may have saved me. While partners had led me to believe I was odd or incomplete in the past, femsex has allowed me to start truly owning my sexuality. I will no longer rely on partners' definition of what is safe or what is good. My sexuality is defined solely by me, and I don't have to offer it to anyone unwillingly. I have become closer with my female friends, and we have talked about ourselves in ways I never thought I could a year ago. I couldn't even say the words vagina or cunt, and now I can't seem to hold them back.
So one thing about femsex that has continued to stick with me is the concept of third wave feminism, and becoming aware of my privilege as a white person. So it's not enough that just a whole bunch of white women are getting together and saying these are our rights, or even a bunch of white queer women are getting together and saying these are our rights. Unless we have everybody on board, we can't move forward as a society.
I think that I'm a fat activist now. I feel like in a lot of ways the seeds for that activism were planted during femsex, and they've kind of come to fruition and grown since then. And you know, now I'm a full-on fat activist. But it has had so many far-reaching effects. Like it's almost impossible to kind of explain how much it's impacted my life. Is femsex radical sexual pedagogy?
Yes, I think it is, because I think it's not so much teaching in the sense of top-down teaching, but it's like diffuse teaching, and it's a safe space for people to question and learn and share. And so I think in that it's fairly original and fairly radical, and it's very sex positive. That's actually also why it's original, is that it's very positive about sex and learning and exploring.
It's a conversation, not a lecture. That's why it's different. It's an experience, not that you're part of, not observing.
I feel like not only were you learning things and discussing concepts and kind of, I guess, bouncing things off and getting other people's, what other people thought about things, but also you were in a way forming your own community with these people in the classroom. So you walked away like knowing so much more things and being open to so many more topics, but also with people that you were going to pretty much connect with for the rest of your life if you choose to.
Okay, that's the end of the film. I hope you got any questions you had about what femsex is or how it impacted people's lives answered. This is Virgie Tovar, signing off.